Hey everyone. So here we are on the new moon in Capricorn. It's quite a dark, heavy one leading up to this new moon. So if you felt, it's been a combination of heaviness, pressure, tension, anxiety, stress for most people. People have been reporting, obviously, the current events are not helping our anxiety levels. And so I was inspired to come on and make this video because a lot of clients were asking me about all the anger that's going through the air. Why is there so much anger? Mars left Aries, at least in Western astrology, of course, in Vedic. He's really right in the fire of Aries. But even in Western astrology, Mars, in the Western system, Mars is not only just moved into Taurus, but he joined up with Black Moon Lilith, which is quite a fierce entity in herself, and also Uranus. So when you get Mars and Uranus together, it's like the Tower archetype in the tarot. And it's also feels like a loaded gun, or like something's about to strike. You know, there's a sense of uneasiness and that just, that feeling like the calm before the storm, or something, being on edge. It's a really edgy feeling. So if you've been feeling that, that's because Mars is inching up on Uranus, actually. And they're going to just get closer and closer over the next couple weeks, which unfortunately is coinciding with inauguration. So I think that's why everyone also has felt really unsettled and on edge about what's happening, what's going to happen. And so we have to just do our shadow work right now. That's all we can do personally. It's the best thing we can do in terms of personally what we can do on the inner plane, as the outer reflects the inner, is to really work on our own levels of anger, rage. Pluto's all about rage, actually, and hatred. And how do we bring these shadow energies to consciousness? And since Pluto's in those last, he's in those final degrees of Capricorn at this new moon, and the new moon is at the end of Capricorn, conjoined the Pluto. And Pluto's the last planet to be working on this Capricorn theme, because Saturn and Jupiter have moved on to Aquarius. But here we are, before we really get that new Aquarian energy coming in, even though Saturn and Jupiter are there, we can still feel the lag, right? There's still like a delay. It's kind of like when I do sessions with people across the world, and we're having a conversation and I say something and then, or they say something, and there's like that delay. So we're in that astrological delay between the two worlds, between the energies. So with Saturn and Jupiter now in a difficult relationship with Mars, they're squaring Mars in Taurus, we're feeling the tension of that. Like, we want to go into that new energy, but the Taurus, Mars in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus and Black Moon Lilith, the dark, fierce, feminine energy in Taurus, are asking us to really slow down and be patient and look at our relationship to how we voice our anger. Because in Aries, it's just it's like that short fuse, just burn it down, burn through it, anger that can be very destructive. And with Taurus, it's the voice. We're getting into the voice, and also how we listen. So are we listening before we voice our response, or are we just still in that blind rage? And Pluto is the deeper collective shadow rage that can come up when we're not processing, we're not speaking, we're not conscious of, maybe it's centuries of anger that's built up, or resentments that have built up, or exploitation that has caused us to carry what we call the Capricorn devil archetype in the tarot. If you work with the tarot archetypes that I talk about a lot, fear, guilt, and shame. So where are we still harboring any fear, guilt, or shame in our psyche, in our unconscious, in our bodies? And that's where we're likely to act out. If we're not conscious of it, we're going to project it onto somebody else, right? So how do we become conscious of these energies so that we're not spewing it out, we're not directing a loaded gun at someone else, and we're not taking our own unprocessed shame? And you may have even noticed a lot of my clients have even been having dreams recently about shame, about their shame, about childhood shame, or feeling shamed, or feeling bullied. Being bullied and being shamed are of the same. I'm going to do a longer post on this actually about shame-based anger, because I feel that's really up in the collective. It's going to take a longer processing than I can do in the span of this video right now. But I am collecting my thoughts on that. I've been thinking about that a lot at this new moon, and I feel like that's a big theme of this new moon. Just to start thinking about your own relationship to shame, your own relationship to anger, your own relationship to patience. How do you deal with anger? Do you repress it? Do you internalize it? Does it become depression? Does it become anxiety? Do you lash out? Do you go tit for tat? Do you have revenge? What do you do with your anger? And how do you see that being reflected back to you right now? And how does your relationship, conscious or unconscious, to anger affect those around you, which then will reverberate out into the collective? This is our personal responsibility, I feel right now, is to work on our own relationship to anger and how to sweeten anger. One of my favorite teachings from my guru that has really helped me through the Mars and Aries period over the last 6 months is and I think I said this in a recent, this is in my Project 40 Inner Circle, but to keep rewriting. And I think this can go with anything, before you speak, before you act, before you send an email, before you send a text message. She says, keep rewriting it until it becomes a love letter. And I was talking to one of my dear sisters, Alma sisters, recently, and we were talking about the battlefield, because I'm about to do this Bhagavad Gita course, and Arjuna Krishna said, look, you have to get on the battlefield and fight. But I think the misconception, what we were talking about, is that battlefield is really the most important battlefield, the one within our own negative tendencies, our own anger, fear, jealousy, rage. That's the real battle that we're fighting, and how that then spirals out and creates more of the violence we see outside of ourselves. So how do we fight the good fight of, really, like they say, when you're pointing one finger out, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So look at ourselves when we want to blame others or project it out, to really come back and look at ourselves right now. And how are we doing with anger? How are we doing with shame? How are we doing with fear or bullying? Or, perhaps if you were bullied in your childhood, that's coming up at this new moon. And there's just a lot being released, because Pluto brings up the deep, dark crevices of our psyche, and in the collective shadow too, because the United States is going through its Pluto return. So this new moon is definitely triggering that too, and we're seeing that. So use this time to really go deep, to make it about your own journey, your own descent into your own underworld, where you hide all the secrets, maybe things that you didn't realize are still bothering you, still affecting you, still causing you to be angry or frustrated, or to take your frustration out on others, or to project, or to blame, or to scapegoat. That's another big Capricorn devil theme, scapegoating. So how do we reclaim all that? And I have actually a Project 40, 2 things. One, I did a Pluto course, I want to say, addressing all of these themes, that I will put a link that you can get for 20% off actually now on this new moon, because I think it's good to do that work if you didn't do it with me last spring when Pluto was going retrograde. That was what inspired it now, but I'm like, now it's good to do that again. But I'm also doing a Project 40 for those of you who work with me in those 40-day intensives. The next Project 40, I wanted to start it on this new moon, and then I realized this wasn't the theme. Like, this new moon is definitely setting this, it's planting the seed of the deep work I want to do, but I'm going to wait until the Aquarian, we get a little deeper into the Aquarian energy on the 24th of January, when the sun starts to separate away from Saturn, goes toward Jupiter, and we get a little bit out of this, because right now we're in a holding pattern, and I think we have to just keep going, into the dismantling and the relinquishing of our past and the way we used to do things. And most importantly, the 333, the fear, guilt, and shame. How can we replace fear, guilt, and shame with the medicine of fear, guilt, and shame, which is love, acceptance, humility, patience, self-love, self-forgiveness. So these are the questions right now to think about. And when we move more into the Aquarian cycle, which some people say maybe it's not going to be until the new moon in Aquarius, Chinese New Year, but I think even after the 24th, we'll feel we're coming more into that essence. The sun will be in Aquarius and the planets will start to stack up in Aquarius. So I think we'll be a little bit coming out of this super heavy, leaded Saturn 9 time that we've been in. But we don't want to miss the opportunity to do the deep work and the introspection and face our fears and look at our guilt and look at our shame and how it needs the medicine, you know, give ourselves the medicine that we need and the healing that we need without beating ourselves up further. And how do we have compassion? Because if we see anyone or groups of people, whatever, that are suffering, they are attacking, they are coming from hatred and anger, how do we put ourselves in their shoes to realize like they're also suffering, you know? And it doesn't mean that you collaborate, you conspire with that energy, but you also you don't want to throw fuel to the fire, as they say, right? So it's one of the teachings too, like in the tarot, there's the Queen of Swords, like being very cool-headed and detached. And the more we have distance, the more we can cool down from things and not feel heated or ignited or triggered. So this is a time when I think, hopefully with, even though Mars is still strong, you see him in the sky, he's quite intense still, but in Taurus, he can help us to develop more patience, more embodiment, better listening. And this is really a time to transform those deeper layers of rage and resentment and shame. So anyway, I will make a longer post on this, a written post. Once I collect some more thoughts on it, I'm going to be really deeply meditating on this during my retreat over the next several days. And I'm also really, as many are, contemplating whether I want to even stay on some of the social media. I'm trying to figure out a way to migrate off of it because I just think it's not healthy for the soul. And I for so long have not agreed with the setup of it. And so it's like, I don't know how much, it's like the cost of wanting to stay connected at the price of such an assault on integrity. It's just hard. It's hard. This is what we're thinking about during this new moon, like integrity, how to stay in integrity, how to not sell your soul to the devil. That's the other side of Capricorn. Don't sell your soul to the devil. Don't sell out. Don't be a sellout for power, fame, whatever the world tries to tell you is a value that you should be slaving yourself, you know, selling yourself, prostituting yourself in any way to against your own soul's code, you know. So anyway, I hope that you feeling the transformational powers of this new moon, and that it really helps to transmute the poisons of fear that are definitely seem to be free floating around in the atmosphere right now. So we got to stay grounded and patient and aware. It's a big word, really eyes wide open right now. Okay, lots of love.